Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gray. This is GrindHaus on 42nd Street, and this is an interview that I've been excited for. I've actually thought about it for quite a while, but it's only able to come together right now. With me, obviously, is my partner, Wolfman.
What's up, everyone? How's everyone doing tonight?
And somebody that secretly I've known probably since 2000. We recently did an interview, and I was able to introduce the guy by saying, oh, he's a special effects artist and a director and an actor. But when I look at this man's credits, I don't know what I can say to introduce him, because he's been a photographer, he's been a producer, he's been a director, an author. I mean, I don't know. I'll just say it like this. This is Joe Frantz. Joe, what is up?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on the show.
No problem, man. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, and I'm very impressed that you pronounced my name correctly. I remember the last interview I did. The guy introduced me as Joe Frantz. I was like, really, dude?
France? Like
yeah,
the country?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, like the country. It's funny, but yeah. Thanks for having me on the show. It was all very last minute, but it came at the perfect time.
First things first, and I think this is why I'm trying to do as many as possible. How are you surviving in the current climate?
In light of the coronavirus, my life, the virus hasn't changed me. Nothing's changed in my life. I'm a workaholic. When I'm not working on a television show or on the set, I work from home, and I don't go out. I don't leave the house. I don't like to go to bars. I don't like to go to parties. I only really hang out and associate with people who are very close to me and who I'm working with. So it's all pretty much the same to me. The only thing that's changed is the food lines, which kind of, It's funny because I remember in the early 80s, during the height of the Cold War, we would always mock the Soviets. You know, we would always say, oh, man, in the Soviet Union, they have to wait in bread lines, they have to wait in food lines, they have to wait in toilet paper lines.
Yep.
Fast forward, you literally have Americans fighting in Walmart aisles over toilet paper. So, you know, we're getting a little too close to comfort, to 1980s commie life.
I thought we were supposed to be like the most progressive country in the world, and it seems like in a matter of months we're going back to the Stone Age.
yeah, right?
It's funny because you said, oh, you know, like I don't go out and I don't party too much, where many people know you from a rowdy crowd. If people don't know, this man is responsible for the crew. If you know anything about CKY, if you know anything about Jackass, Viva la Bam, Bam's Unholy Union, as well as like just the people involved. You got Bam and Brandon, both Brandons, sorry, Novak and DiCamillo. You got Rake, like that was a rowdy bunch. So to hear that you don't really go out and party, it's almost like, don't meet your heroes, kid. No, I'm kidding.
Well, you know, everything runs its course.
Yep.
And there was a time, I didn't party much as a young guy either. Like, I didn't have my first beer till I was 18. I never drank much. I was not a weed head or anything like that. But during the CKY days, it was very interesting and a lot of fun on Viva la Bam because I was earning.
Oh, we lost you.
Oh,
go ahead. Repeat.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Now we can.
Okay, yeah, I don't know why it's reception's kind of spotty here. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
But anyway, during the MTV stuff we did, Viva la Bam and Unholy Union and all that stuff, I was getting paid to have fun with my friends, and we would film all day and party all night, and it became what we did, and it ran its course. One by one, we all kind of, Rav, it's no secret how he had an addiction, and he sobered up, and he's been sober, I think, for 7-8 years now.
Yep.
DiCamillo, he smoked a little weed and drank a little beer, but he was never really too much of a partier. You know what I mean?
He seemed like he was always pretty much like a kind of private guy. Didn't really like huge crowds. And like during Viva la Bam, whenever you guys traveled across the world, he was like always staying home. I don't know if it's like a fear of planes or, but it seemed like he always stayed and like manned the fort,
Yeah, he always had, well, he loves Westchester and that area, and he's a creature of comfort, I guess is the best way to say it. He likes to control his environment. So when I would hang out with him, we would always do the thing he liked to do. He loved to go. Brandon DiCamillo loved to go to Kmart. He loved to go to the bookstore, and he loved to go to the mall.
Arcades.
And then he had a basement full of arcade machines. So there was about a year and a half, not a week went by when I didn't spend a night sleeping at his house, just staying up all night, smoking a little weed, drinking a lot of beer, and eating pizzas and playing video games, watching The Sopranos. It was a great time. Me and DiCamillo at one point. Yeah, we were very, very, very close at one point.
Is it true that he is a Mortal Kombat master?
Yeah, he won a tournament. He held a world's record.
No shit.
He found a kink in the algorithm, which allowed him to beat the game. It was just one simple trick where he would stay to the edge of the screen and do a series of different moves, and it enabled him to kick ass. Yeah, he was great.
It's hilarious.
I never knew that. Like, I knew he was a video game aficionado. I've heard about like people getting like super angry trying to beat him in Mortal Kombat, like to the point where like they're screaming at him and stuff.
Yeah. I remember one time I played him in Mortal Kombat, and he gave me a handicap. He only used a punch button. He didn't use any of the special moves. He just fucking used the punch button and kicked my ass left and right and up and down. Oh my god. Yeah, it was very frustrating to play against him. But I could beat him.
Infuriating.
I could beat him in just about everything else that was a classic game. I have an arcade here at my house, and I have like 200 classic games that I can play through my emulators and stuff like that. So I could always beat him in everything else.
So
at one point we did a video game special for MTV called Blastozoid, and we actually built a life-size live-action Donkey Kong, 5 stories high, and it was actually fully functional. We sent the barrels down, and we dressed Rake up as
amazing.
As Mario, and we got to pelt him with the barrels. And Lord Bataro was Donkey Kong at the top, dressed in a horrible gorilla suit. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
So before I get in, we get into like a couple like filmmaking and other questions. I have one major question. I've met pretty much all of you guys throughout Ocean City and going to CKY shows, but the one person I didn't get to meet was Don Vito. Just give me a quick explanation of how he really was off camera.
Don Vito was a very kind man. He was very generous, and he was a man that did not have much.
Yeah.
He worked his life in the auto body trade, and he would do like fiberglass work. And I remember at one point his lung collapsed because he refused to wear the mask. So he was a little reckless. He was a patriot. He was in the Army, I think, for 4 years.
Wow.
And there's a great picture of him in his Army uniform. And he was just a very kind person. Like if he had 2 beers, he'd give you one,
Yeah.
And he was, I remember, but he would love to bust your balls. I remember at one point he was one of Phil's jobs is to run BAM's corporation.
Yes.
So BAM has like BAM Inc. and BAM Margera Inc. And he has a couple different corporations, and there's a lot of money coming in and changing hands and stuff. So one of Phil's functions is to maintain BAM's whole fucking lifestyle. So him and Don Vito would help him, and they would sit in the basement, and I would go over there. And there was a point when I was hanging out with Don Vito and Phil more than I was with BAM, and I would just go down there, and Vito would bust my balls the whole time. And he was just a fun guy who loved to laugh and was also wrongfully accused of molesting someone, and which is he did not do it. And I don't want to talk too much about it because it pisses me off how he got railroaded by a judge who was trying to buck her position for district attorney or something like that. And it was just,
and they were basing his actions off of a character that he was known for and not the actual person.
Yes.
That
And the
pisses
way
me
they
off.
made it, and the things that he supposedly did, there was 200 people there in front of him.
Yep.
There were parents, and there was so the people who sued him sued Don Vito. They sued MTV, even though it wasn't an MTV event. They sued the mall that it happened in. They sued the store. They sued BAM's sponsors, even though BAM wasn't there and the sponsors had nothing to do with the event. It was a nefarious cash grab, in my opinion.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
it makes me sick to my stomach. And so that's the name of that tune.
Well, for the real fans out there, if you guys didn't know, now you know. Don Vito, rest in peace. Very, very giving and great person.
He was actually the only one I've ever met. It's kind of funny that you never met him.
Yeah.
This is the only one I've ever met.
So you were
Yeah, and I remember I'll share a great Don Vito story. Awesome. He was very strong. He was a powerful man, and I remember when I was drinking with him at a bar, and this guy came up to him drunk, and this guy was an asshole, and he got in Don Vito's face, and he starts, you know what? You're a fat fuck. And no one on TV even really likes you, and you don't belong on the show. Jeez. And you know what? People aren't laughing with you. They're laughing at you because you're such a fat fuck. What do you think of that? Now, in the meantime, I'm looking at Don Vito's hand because he had this fucking move he would do. He would flex his hand to get the strength up, and then he could grab. You know how Spock has that. Spock on Star Trek has that Vulcan move where he grabs your shoulder and you pass
Vulcan
out.
death grip or something.
And there's there's the wrestler Ming with the Tongan death grip. And actually, I think that's where Don got it from a pro wrestler because he grabs the exact spot that Ming would grab. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Well, anyway, Don Vito, I see him flexing his hand. I was like, uh-oh, gonna have a little fight. So Don Vito, out of nowhere, spins around, grabs the guy by the neck, and in one smooth motion, pins him against the bar by his neck. And then he holds up his other hand, and just like the Karate Kid Part 2, he goes, live or die. And the guy goes, live. So Don Vito let him go, bought him a beer, and we got drunk.
That's hilarious.
It was great.
That's a good story.
That is. So you're from a time before, like nowadays, everyone has pretty good cameras on their phones. And even before that, DSLR, mirrorless cameras, they're making independent movies and music videos a lot more accessible. But you came from a time where none of that was the option. Very much into film. Just what got you started as the film guy? Like, you were the go-to guy for all of that stuff.
Yeah, there weren't too many people who were shooting film at the time. Okay, so I'll break it down for you. When I was in college, I was extremely frustrated that the best quality of video that I could get my hands on was VHS.
Yeah.
It really pissed me off. So, and people who could shoot film and do it well were far and few in between, because film, a lot of people don't understand, film is not anything like video if you don't really know what film is. Film is a material that runs through a camera, and you have to load it in a bag, and you can't see the film because the film can't be exposed to light.
Yep.
So each magazine of film has 10 minutes, and then they have a spool of film with about 2 minutes and 45 seconds on it at 24 frames a second. And when that film runs through the camera and when you transfer it to video, it's about $100 for every minute of film that runs through the camera.
Jesus Christ.
Ouch.
And that's back then.
Oh.
So with inflation, that's about $200 by today's
Yeah.
standards. So I realized that if I could, and I always had a great sense of composition, and I was always a very keen cameraman. So I knew that if I learned how to shoot film, people would need me on a set, because I knew no one in the film industry, and I could not get a job even though I had a college degree in film. I couldn't get a job shooting weddings out of college.
Jeez.
So I took a job at like a Photomat, which was a place that like developed your film in an hour when you took pictures with a camera.
Yep.
And so I got a job there. Then I as processing film, and I learned everything about it. And then I got a job at NFL Films handling motion picture film, and I spent 2 years of my life studying negatives. And I was making, I think, like $7.50 an hour. It was nothing. And with a college education, it sucked. But
Working
I
for
worked my ass
NFL.
off.
Yeah. Working for NFL.
So, and I worked my ass off. And I bought a Bolex camera, which is a spring-wound Swiss camera. I made a reel of these crazy little art independent films, but when I began to show it to people, they were like, "Oh my God, this looks as good as a Stanley Kubrick movie.
Yeah.
Like this is so. It looks fucking amazing. How did you do this?" And I would never fuck up the exposures. Like a lot of times, cinematographers would shoot something and like it wouldn't turn out, or be grossly underexposed, or would be out of focus.
Yeah.
And so everything that I shot was gold. So I showed that to an ad agency here in Philadelphia called Gyro Worldwide. My boss was a advertising guru, Steve Grass, and he immediately put me to work, sending me around the world, working for. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I did a bunch of commercials for Puma, and they were airing in #1 slots, and that's kind of how I got my start.
So what got you tied up with the crew, the CKY guys?
Bam and Ryan Dunn came to one of my shoots and asked me to shoot a music video called 96 Quite Bitter Beings for a band I never heard of called CKY. Yeah, and Bam assured me, I was like, "Well, do you got a script and storyboard?" And Bam was like, "Well, I know what that stuff is, but I don't really have that. But I know what's going to happen, though. Ryan Dunn here is going to crash a car into a bridge." And I was like, "How are we going to do that stunt? How are we going to get the permits for that if you don't have any money?" And Bam was like, "Well, we're going to buy a car for $100 and crash it into a bridge." I was like, "Okay, dude, I'll work for free. I'll do it. Just pay for the fucking film and I'll show up." And I didn't expect anything to happen with it. I just I liked these guys and I wanted to have fun making a video with them. But the video got on Total Request Live. It was a huge hit on MTV. And that kind of started off. Then Bam was like, "Hey, let's make, CKY." They were just finishing up CKY 2K. He's like, "Let's make CKY 3. Let's shoot a bunch in film." And that turned into Haggard, the movie, and CKY 4. And then we did all those music videos we did like 13, 14 videos for CKY. I think like 5 or 6 music videos for the band Him.
Yep.
We did one for Clutch.
Yep.
We just began this whole, and at the time, things were really happening for us. It's like we were doing things that no one else was doing in independent filmmaking. And it got noticed, and people were watching our stuff all around the world, and we got a fan base, and just everything kind of happened all at once. It was exhilarating.
People are still living and dreaming of those days. Like, you guys may not understand the cultural impact you guys had, because you changed a generation, and specifically like my generation. I'm 32 and my sister's 34. So when CKY 2K came out, I think it was like 2000 or 2001. I was like 12, 13 years old. Skateboarder, liked heavy metal, liked punk music. Like, that was literally what shaped my teenage years. And then to see the upgrade from CKY 2K to CKY 3, like, that explains, because you jumped on for that time period and you can see the quality difference.
Yeah, that was my whole thing was the quality, you know, and it always actually broke my heart because um, Bam had to import everything at half resolution, and we didn't have the ability to do a sound mix. Okay, because so he was working on a Media 100, which came out around the same time as the Avid, and this is before
Oh.
Final Cut. This is before everyone had a computer, and his computer only had enough hard drive space. It was a gig and a half.
Ugh.
So he had to import NTSC footage at half resolution to get the whole film inside the computer. And it was always frustrating because I could see the quality loss. But recently I did a project called CKY Remastered.
Yep.
So I imported all the original footage, worked with a very, very dear friend of mine named Kat, and me and her reassembled shot by shot every film, and I did all new color corrections.
No shit.
And all yes, so
That's a lot of work. Jeez.
yeah, it got released for so the people who yes, it was a lot of work. It took it took about a year for me to digitize the footage, and I did that a couple years ago, as whenever I could in my spare time. And then it took 5 months from start to finish for me and Kat to assemble the films.
Wow.
A lot of people, it actually breaks my heart. If I go on the fan forum sometimes, people send me a link, and I go to people trashing me. They said, oh, Frantz is just doing this to make tons of money. It was a cash grab. Believe me, I added up my hours, and I added up the money from the advance that I was given from Danger Cats TV to do the project, and I made about $5-6 an hour. So I would have made 3 times the money working at a Walmart as a cash register person. But
Yeah.
I did this because it needed to get done. And then when they released it on Danger Cats, they didn't release high definition. It was all down res. But I have something that I didn't have before, which is the CKY films in HD. So my plan is to release them late this year. And what I'm going to do is anyone who buys an advanced copy is going to get their names in the credits of the Blu-rays and of the films for the rest of history. So if you buy an advanced copy of CKY HD, CKY Remastered, your name will be in the credits of the film in thank you in the thank you section, and it will never be taken out. For the history of CKY, everyone's names will be in the movies, and so I think that's a pretty cool deal for the fans, and it's a way for everyone to revisit these movies and to see them like they've never been seen, and the movies as they were originally meant to be.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like GrindHaus needs to buy a copy, so we're
Yeah.
get our names there in the credits.
I have an entire shelf right now, and it goes all the Jackass films and all the deleted stuff and all the stuff that never aired, including the TV stuff. Then it goes to Viva la Bam. Then it goes to CKY, Big Brother. The only thing I don't have, I have Wild Boys. The only thing I don't have is the Bam's Unholy Union. Was that ever released on DVD?
Yes. It was limited. You can still find copies on Amazon.
Okay. But now that you re-release all this, now, I mean, obviously I'm gonna have to go and get all that because that's just awesome. Where can people find that?
Yeah, and it's not. I haven't released it yet. I'm currently writing a book, and I'm producing a movie, and so I have to get all this other stuff done. And
so soon enough, basically.
Yeah. By the end of the year, I'm gonna do this, and then if it's successful and people buy it rather than fucking pirate it, I will put the money into the production of new and unreleased CKY stuff that people have never seen before.
Ooh.
Because I have about 600 hours of footage.
Shit.
Yeah, so these are some skits that we did that were experimental and some lost music videos and a lot of stunts and just behind the scenes moments that people have never seen. So I would love to bring that to the fans as well eventually.
Okay.
That's awesome.
What
I gotta ask.
yeah.
Hold on, I gotta ask, since we're on the topic of this, how much influence did you have in the Skeletor versus Beastman segment? Because what was it like filming that? That is hands down like my favorite moment. I still to this day will listen to the song or watch the video if I want to laugh my ass off and I'm just like in a pissy mood. It gets me cracking up all the time.
Oh, wait till you see the remastered version. It's amazing. We had an artist named Emmanuel Koch who illustrated my graphic novel, The Brandon Novak Chronicles. The reason that got deleted from the CKY videos was because we actually used clips of the actual He-Man cartoon, and our distributor was afraid that they'd have a lawsuit, so they actually removed it. And over the years, that music video has had a huge cult following. It has had television commercials modeled after it, where people are dressed up as Beastman and Skeletor and stuff like that. And there's been a lot of homages to it in pop culture. And so those clips where we actually use the real cartoon, we had that artist Emmanuel Koch who did my graphic novel. He redid the backgrounds, like he did a mock-up of like Castle Grayskull, but it was like made of dicks. Like dicks are like the turrets and stuff like that. He did such a great job. I love him so much.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so anyway, what it was like to make that, we walked in to D. Camilla's house in the morning, and all his walls in his living room were covered with paper, and he had chalk markers, and we just started drawing bricks and stones to make it look like the interior of a castle. And he had a desk that said Castle Grayskull on it, and he had these crazy outfits that he made out of scraps of
he actually made them. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so he created those costumes, and we all kind of showed up, and we went through him singing it a couple times, then we did some cutaway shots, and by the end of the night everyone was fucking tired and went to bed, and I stayed up all night and did the stop motion animation. I took real dolls, the real He-Man
The
dolls,
action figures.
That's part of like
dolls.
the best thing of it, though, is your stop animation. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I've won a couple awards in my lifetime for my stop motion animation work, so it was a lot of fun to do. It's a little tedious because everyone else fucking went to bed, but I'm glad I put in the extra time looking back on it.
It's funny because like I was doing a podcast episode before, and somebody was going on this real long-winded rant, and I had my phone with me, and I have a action figure of the Crow, and I was like just taking pictures of him moving his arm up and down, and I was like, oh, it's gonna look like a movie. It was 1 second long, and I said, how do people do this for like a 5-minute video? Like, it's so much work.
Tedious work.
It takes a lot of patience and a lot of passion.
Yeah. So, okay. Pretty much we all know the state of, BAM now, and Chris is doing good, and all the guys seem to be moving on from that. And they just recently announced that there's going to be a Jackass 4. Do you have any connection to this upcoming project?
I would like to talk about it. I'm not really allowed to talk about it, but I'll say that they've been filming in California, and when they film very sporadically. So I'm here at my house finishing up my book and prepping to do the Brandon Novak feature-length documentary. And so I had the option of flying out to LA and living out there and working as a local, but it just didn't make sense to me. Because they'll film for maybe 2 or 3 days, and then they won't film for a week. And it's like, well, what am I supposed to do during that time?
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, circumstances haven't worked out that way, but all the filming is halted. And, as they do in all the other films, they come to Westchester to film for a bit. So, if they do that, I'm gonna jump on it. Or, maybe if they travel to another country, they'll need another camera guy. But, Rab has been filming for it. Rab films now.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
that's awesome. Actually, I would like to like to get in contact with Rab at some point. I think like we're friends on Facebook, but I know he is a very busy guy. He's got like so much on his plate.
Well, he just had a daughter as well, so.
Oh,
yeah.
Good for him. Hey, congratulations, Rab. If you hear this, definitely glad that you're on the path that you're on, as well as everybody. You know, yeah, everyone has their ups and downs in life, but it just seems like everyone is doing at least somewhat better at this point, and it's good to see that.
Yeah, and I'm working with Rab on a project of passion. In 2014, I did a documentary for MTV called CKY: The Greatest Hits, which was a 45-minute story about the making of the CKY videos and what it was like to do that. But there was a lot we didn't cover. You know, we didn't cover anyone's addiction. We didn't cover a lot of people's, you know, the drug problems and the friendship dilemmas and all the crazy behind-the-scenes stuff slowly went away during that project, during that MTV thing, and it was a cool documentary, but it was just so lighthearted, but it was really thin on the personal dilemmas that were going on in our lives. So me and Rab are currently pitching the CKY movie, the Can't Kill Yourself movie, together. So unfortunately Hollywood's kind of at a standstill and no one's making any decisions. So yeah. We'll see what happens with that.
Maybe they're waiting. I know it sounds stupid, but maybe they're waiting for like the nostalgic boom, because when the people of that age are at a certain age, that's when they start watching the remakes from their childhood. So maybe a CKY movie in like a few more years, Hollywood's gonna be all over that. There's gonna be the resurgence.
I honestly, I think the problem is that Hollywood never understood these movies. Like when Bam started making the CKY videos, all his Hollywood friends said he was wasting his time.
Yeah.
And when we made Haggard, like everyone in Hollywood fucking hated Haggard, and now it's a cult classic.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, people love that.
I love it.
and so Hollywood people do not understand the CKY series. But fortunately, we have an agent who's trying to help us get it sold, and he grew up as a CKY fan, so we'll see. We'll see. You know, unfortunately, it takes a lot of time and resources to do projects like this, and I'm not out to get rich on it. You know, I mean, as long as my bills are paid, I'll fucking work on it for free. As long as I can pay my bills, I don't care. I want to make this movie.
Absolutely.
So we'll see.
It's just like a passion project for you, basically. You just wanna...
And when it does come closer, obviously, I'd like to have you on, you know, and talk about how things are going with the filming process and stuff like that. Definitely want to keep you around, you know. So I had this scenario. Basically, you've been there for the technology of filming since you started, and you've seen the different changes. What are the good things about today, and what are the things that you wish would kind of make a comeback?
Well, I filmed every format from anamorphic Super 8 to 3D to Panavision. So I've filmed in basically every film and digital format that a person could possibly film in. And I will say that the days of film were very, very special because you really appreciated you appreciated every second of film that went through that camera because it was so expensive and it was so precious, and you had no idea what it was going to look like till it got back from the developers and it got transferred. So it might be 2 weeks before you even see what you shot.
Yeah.
So nowadays we're to the point with the technology where you could literally put a camera in anyone's hands, and if they film long enough, you can have enough shots that look good enough for a music video. And so a lot of the value of the art and the craft has gone away because the technology is a lot easier to use. And, you know, I do a lot of television shows. I've done 200 television shows for MTV, National Geographic, Discovery Channel, Animal Planet, that kind of stuff. And I meet a lot of these guys who just think they're brilliant because they know how to fucking press on an automatic on a camera, and you know, and like they think they're the new Alfred Hitchcock, and they look at an old guy like me and they're like, oh, like there's this new technology and this new app, you know?
Yeah.
Like this one guy I was working with, he refused to press the buttons on the GoPro. Like he needed to go to an app to turn on the GoPro, and I'm like, dude, the GoPro's
So he's
right
working
in
it
front
through
of
his
you.
phone instead of like using the camera itself.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it would take him an extra 2 minutes. I'm like, dude, all right, we got to shoot the scene. The GoPro's on the fucking vehicle. Just press the on button. Hold on, I have to log into the app. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you know.
That's hilarious.
And he's
Oh
like,
my
well, they have
God.
apps for these things now. You know, you might not know about this because you're an old guy. I'm like, okay, press. There, it's on. Let's go.
I mean, it's common sense though, because and now not just with even GoPros, but like even your digital and mirrorless cameras, they all have their own apps, and people are like, "Oh, look, it's kind of like I have a monitor, like an external monitor." It's not the same. There's lag. The resolution is shit, and if the resolution is shit, you don't know if you're in focus or not. You need an actual monitor.
And not only that, you're on a mountaintop in Montana or Wyoming. That app ain't working. You have to use your brain, you know. And a lot of these guys, they get lazy, and I don't know. They're so infatuated. They're so infatuated with themselves. A lot of the guys, the new generation. But there are a lot of people who are able to use the technology, and they're really smart about it, and they don't film a lot. Oh, the other thing that's really bad right now is people keep filming when there's nothing to film.
Ugh.
People don't know. So I've worked on shows where the producer will be like, keep filming. Like I worked on one show where we finally had a break. It was a hard show because we were working in the mountains, sleet and ice. It was a tough show.
Jeez.
It was always fucking freezing. And at one point we had like 20 minutes to relax. And there were like 8 cameramen in a park. Like in a fucking teeny weeny little park, the size of like a baseball field, and it had a little stream and some trees. And he goes, "I want everyone to shoot 20 B-roll shots, and then you can take a break." I'm like, dude, there's like 6 or 8 of us. We'll all be filming the same things, and there's nothing to film here. It all sucks. So we're gonna confuse the editors because they're not going to be able to discern our good shots from all this extra bullshit.
All the footage is gonna look the same, and they're gonna think,
Yeah.
"What did one guy shoot this with just 8 different cameras?" Or you know what? That's ridiculous. But you know what? I think, and I hate to say it, but I think the Jackass crew may have a little bit to do with that, because a lot of these people who film a lot right now, they feel like they don't want to miss an instance, a second. Like, oh, I have to have it on camera. It has to be caught, even if nothing's happening. Like, you know, say there's a small dispute at the counter of a coffee shop. Everyone breaks out their phone so they can start yelling "World Star" in about a minute. You know, they don't want to miss a thing.
Those people.
But the problem is half the time, no, 90% of the time, they're just capturing garbage, and they still post it. So now you got to sit through, and you're expecting fireworks, and you get a dud. That's my rant. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's true. And you know what really pisses me off is when there's it's like there'll be a fight with 30 people, and then someone will take out their iPhone and film it and hold it vertically.
Yeah.
So you can only see 2 people. It's like, hold the phone the other fucking way. You're missing so much action. You're filming the sky and
Wide
2
shot.
people.
Wide shot.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm just going to put my TV on its side, and I'll stream it that way. So, Wolfman, you had some more, right?
Yeah. So obviously you're very accredited. I mean, most people know you from the CKY stuff, whatnot. But you know, you said you talked about National Geographic and all this other stuff. But I also read that you taught at the Art Institute of Philadelphia. How was that?
That was a lot of fun. I love teaching. I would actually. A part of me wants to retire from filmmaking and get back in a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no!
It was exhilarating. I taught there for a year, and by the end of the year, I was their most requested teacher in the whole program, and I was also the youngest. I was 26 years old, and it was funny. My first day of class, I came in, and I'm like, "All right, guys, you know, everyone take out a piece of paper and a pen. I'm going to give you your syllabus." And they're like, "Where's the guy?" I'm like, what guy? They're like, where's the teacher? I'm like, I'm the teacher.
It's like,
They're
dude, you're
no,
like our age.
They're like, they didn't believe me. They were like, no, seriously, where's the dude? Like, you're his assistant, but like, where's the real teacher? I'm like, I'm the real teacher, and you fuckers are gonna learn a lot. You're gonna have a lot of fun,
kids, man. Oh.
Yeah,
the assistant.
But it was great. The fact that I could get paid and sit in air conditioning and just talk to students about cool movies and how to capture good movies, it was so much fucking fun. It wasn't a job for me, and I would go into the faculty lounge, and you get these teachers who complain about their jobs, and they complain about the students, and they complain. I was only in the teachers lounge twice, and I was like, I can't stand you people. You're dead inside. You're walking corpses who you're automatons who've fucking taken over teachers' bodies. It's like the fucking invasion of the
I think
body
there's an
snatchers.
age disconnect too. Like some of them are just very old, and then the young kids, they just can't relate.
But then don't teach.
I agree with you.
Yes.
But they just they want their retirement at a certain age and whatnot, and they just stick around and
Well,
stick in it.
Their major complaint was that the students weren't learning fast enough. It's like, well, have you ever thought of the fact that you're an ineffective teacher?
Mhm.
Like, you have to understand a person's mind in order to educate them and to allow, the best way to teach a kid is to put them in a situation where they can be successful at what they're doing. And once you do that, their mind starts going, the gears start turning. You can see them get excited, and some people have that and some people don't. And I had the gift of teaching. I loved it.
That everyone learns differently too. What worked for that teacher is probably how they're teaching these kids, and that probably doesn't work for them.
Yes.
They have to adjust their teaching style a little bit, and they just seems like they don't.
Every person learns in a different way. Exactly.
So speaking of calling people zombies, you did a Living Dead zombie documentary. Fuck, stuttering over words.
Yeah. My buddy Doug Sackman.
That's what's called.
Yeah. So my buddy Doug Sackman is a special effects genius. I mean, he can take red food dye and toilet paper and like Crisco or like vegetable grease and like put it on your face and make you look like a fucking corpse within 2 minutes. It's so awesome. So he does everything on a shoestring budget, and he's directed a lot of horror, low budget and indie horror movies. He does the zombie crawl in a lot of different cities. And
I did a bunch in Asbury.
Yes. So Doug Sackman's the man. So he was making this zombie. It was a trailer for a zombie book, and it only had to be like half a minute long, but he filmed like half a movie. So I wanted to do a documentary about the passion of people who create zombies. And so that was called The Living Play Dead, and that was a hell of a lot of fun to work with those guys.
Where is that available at? Because I would like to check that out. I mean, I know I'm Wolfman on here.
It's on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm Wolfman in here, but I played roller derby and coach roller derby for 10 years plus, and I was Zombicidal Maniac. Like, I'm a huge zombie fan, but so.
Oh yeah. I mean, I
just never heard of it.
3,000 movies in my movie collection, and I have so many fucking zombie movies up there in my
Absolutely
library.
love them.
Yeah.
We actually had a special
What do you guys think of The Walking Dead?
I stopped watching many seasons ago.
Yeah, I did too. I loved it at first, but
Agreed.
It was weird because it became so, like, I don't know what the fuck was going on with the writers, man. I don't know if they were just like, everything just fell flat, and I knew that they had talented writers, and the actors were very talented as well, but everything just fell so flat, and their character flaws, they didn't play up their character flaws enough, and they didn't. It was like the actors were zombies. I mean, every fucking episode has that speech where the sheriff character's like, "Now, guys, we all got to do the right thing, and there's a time to do the right thing, and that time is now. And the right thing to do is always the right thing to do. And that's why we're going to do the right thing. And then you cut to everyone listening to him, shaking their heads,
Nodding,
and tearfully nodding.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
This guy
Then it
gets
turns
it.
into a GI Joe PSA. Knowing is half the battle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my biggest thing is I feel like they were trying to stretch. Like, obviously, it's like the story has to come to an end at some point, but they know it's making money. They know it's getting ratings. So they make these episodes, like literally 2 episodes, they could be condensing into 1 if they shot it right. The story would be right, all that. But
It's like 5 or 10 minutes in the beginning, 5 or 10 minutes at the end, and a bunch of just bullshit. In the middle.
just filler in the middle.
But the zombie effects are great. But you know what was? But it's like you look at a series like Better Call Saul, and it's like they use every aspect of the character to create such amazing stories that like the most mundane parts of the characters are played up, and their flaws are just exploited, and it's just so much fun to watch. And they don't run out of things to write. I mean, their big thing is trying to get money to do the next season. They are stacked.
I think it's an underrated show. It doesn't get as enough exposure as it should. I think it's one of the best written shows out there right now, personally.
Yeah,
it's
and
one of my favorite shows
really
of all
good.
time. And I do think that it's misunderstood. I don't think a lot of people understand that kind of depth of characters that it brings to the screen.
Well, you would think with the connection to Breaking Bad that it would be like this massive successful hit, but I think people don't give it a chance because they say at some points it moves slowly. But there's a difference between a movie moving slowly, like the Deathbed, the bed that eats, that movie moves fucking slow. But if you're watching this, it's character building, it's nuance, it's beautiful. And people just get bored. Like, where's the tits and where's the blood? It's like
we live in a world of Michael Bay. That's all I have to say on that.
Oh,
no,
God.
No one, you know what I mean? No one wants story anymore.
Yeah.
I do want to ask, and I don't want to like ruin the vibe. I have nearly 7 years clean coming up this November. And when I actually was getting clean, I read Dreamseller. And I am familiar with Baltimore, and I'm familiar with the crew, and reading that book, you know what I mean? It put a lot of stuff into perspective, and it helped me, right when I actually needed it to help me.
What were you taking, if you don't mind?
Heroin, pills. I mean, I wasn't as, I don't want to say I wasn't as bad. I never had an issue with money. So I could always get whatever I wanted. I never really had to steal too much. I never had to like sell my body or anything like that. But that's dangerous. The fact that I never had to worry about, what I mean, where I was going to get high. And, heroin is crazy. Opiates in general, anything I can get my hands on at that point. And I know you've been friends with Novak for a long time. A lot of people do not, they burn bridges and they can't reconnect them. How were you able to manage to either forgive or stay friends with Novak throughout all of his troubles and make it to the point where you're at now?
So when we did Dreamseller, he and Bam approached me and they said, look, everyone, when Novak tells one of his heroin stories about, being an addict on the streets of Baltimore, it doesn't matter how many people in the room, you can hear a fucking pin drop.
Yeah.
The situations he would put himself in, were astoundingly and morbidly outrageous. And so they said, look, you have a college education and we think that you can write this book. You have a way with expressing yourself. So I was like, look, and in my heart of hearts, I was like, I kind of didn't want to do it because I was like, I'm going to end up writing the whole book. Like Novak's not going to do any work. So I sat Novak down and I made an outline and I sat with him for a whole day and I said, here's the things I want you to write about. And so I showed up back to BAM's like a week later and I was like, so how's the writing going? What have you got? And he goes, what do you mean? What right? And I was like, remember the outline we did fucking last week? And he goes, And he goes, "Oh, I lost it." And I was like, "You son of a bitch." I was like, "Fuck you. I gave you a day of my time.
Yeah.
Like I could have been having fun that day, and I fucking sat with you. So fuck you, dude." And so the next week I went over there, and he's like, "Look," and he gave me some books, some some loose leaf books and scraps of paper. And he goes, "Look, I've been writing." I said, "I thought you lost the outline." He goes, "No, I found it." So I was immediately thrilled. And he has that gift of gab. He has a beautiful way of expressing himself when he sits down to it. So I took all his stories and I created a book out of it. And it did really fucking well. It got into the top 50 best-selling books on Amazon at one point. And and every year, currently it's in its 10th printing, and every year it goes up to number 1 at one point or another in the best-selling addiction and recovery books.
Yep.
So for years I wanted to do the sequel, but there was a point when he was so fucking strung out. I mean, there was a point when, like earlier in the show when I told you I did that CKY documentary, I did not make any money doing that. It was very low budget, and MTV did not want Novak in it. They didn't care about Novak. And I said, "Look, I really want Novak in this. It's in this documentary. He's a big part of CKY, whether you understand this or not." So I approached Novak and I said, "Look, dude, I have some good news. I'll give you $500 and for like a 2-hour interview, and I'm going to put you in this documentary." And he was so strung out at that point. He was cursing me up and down, saying, "Fuck you. I should sue you. I'm worth so much more. How dare you insult me?
What?
My price just went up. You're going to have to give me thousands of dollars. I want at least $5,000.
Wow.
Fuck you." And I was like, "Dude, I fought to get you in this." He goes, "Well, if MTV wants me," I'm like, "MTV doesn't want you, you son of a bitch." I was like, and then he starts threatening to sue me, saying I'm stealing money from him. And I was like, "Brandon, we split the proceeds from Dreamseller 3 ways, you, me, and Bam. And the checks go to Phil. Phil cuts the checks and gives it to us. How could I possibly rip you off? What are you saying?" And so he was such a bastard. It was like someone killed Brandon and took his place. It was because he was always a good person inside, and he always had a large heart, and he always had a moral compass. But when he was on the drugs, it was like a demon took his place. So I just stopped talking to him.
It was a complete different person, and you could actually see it.
Yeah,
Did
he
Dan
was
bury
terrible.
him in the pet cemetery by any chance?
Yes, exactly. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
So in 2015, he went when he was in his last rehab. Now, of course, he's been in over 24 rehabs. And every time he comes out with the best intentions and says, "I want to be just like you. This is great. I'm sober now."
Tattoo,
he gets a clean bill of health. Yes, yeah. He
Yeah.
gets a tattoo that says "No more fucking heroin."
Yep.
And then he would fall to his weakness again. And so I figured that might be the case this time. But I decided, you know what? I'm going to reconnect with my old friend. It's been a long time. He's hated me for so long. I'm going to go visit old Brandon. So I showed up to his rehab, the visiting center on a Sunday, and I looked around, and I was like, "Where is everybody? Where's all your friends?"
Yeah.
And he says, "You're all I have left." And I was like, "That's pretty sad if I'm all you have left, because you hate me." So we started laughing at that, and then that rekindled our friendship. And lo and behold, the rehab took, and he found sobriety, and now he spends his life, every waking moment of every day, helping addicts get the help that they need in order to recover. And he's a completely different person. I talk to him probably 3 times a day. We're working on 2 different projects right now. We're working on the Dreamseller sequel, The Streets of Baltimore, which goes to the printer on Monday.
Awesome.
And we're also working on the Brandon Novak feature documentary, which chronicles his entire life, his career with Powell Peralta, his addiction, his arrest, his prison sentence, his experiences, the behind the scenes on Viva la Bam and Unholy Union. I have tons of fucking behind the scenes footage with him. We have great photos from Red Mohawk and Ryan G.
Nice.
And Roger Bagley and Adam Wallachevich. You know, these guys are staples in skateboard and portrait photography, and the whole scene we're involved in. And it's just, and I have the rights to use a lot of the MTV footage. And so this is going to be an insane fucking documentary. And it's going to be the story of, I mean, you know, there's people who've had crazy, insane drug lives. I mean, there's kids, you know, you read about them. They're dealing crack when they're 13. But I love this story because this is the story of every suburban family. You know, every suburban kid that falls to addiction who you think is immune to it. And just the situations he's put himself in are fucking unfathomable. Like this new book, The Streets of Baltimore, I like it a hell of a lot more than Dreamseller.
Really?
I modeled it. Yeah, I modeled it after like a Mickey Spillane, Mike Hammer detective novel kind of. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of heroin polluted romances. And one of the things that I'm very, very proud of. Now, the book took a long time because I had to do a lot of research, and because Novak, his memory is so polluted by the drug-induced situations that he was in, he doesn't remember what years things happened.
Right.
So I had to spend a lot of time figuring out where he was. And then once I could figure out a location, then he'd be like, oh, you know what? I worked at a restaurant at that time. And then but there was a 4-year period when he didn't know what the fuck happened to him. And it was very frustrating because that's when the best shit happened to him for the book. And that's when he was getting all of his arrests. That's when he was living on the streets. That's when he was shitting in alleys and
kind of getting mixed up in times. Like,
yeah.
I know that feeling because as you get older, it's kind of like you have to place memories. It's hard to place certain memories with ages, and you kind of have to put yourself in like, okay, well, I was friends with this person and we were hanging out at this age. You know what I mean? But when you put drugs in the mix, it's near impossible. Like, I don't know how you were able to do that for someone else's life. I can barely do it for my life.
Well, there was a clue. So I had all his arrest records, and so we began to go through those. But at one point, years and years ago, I went to visit his mother, and she gave me a box. She says, "Here's Brandon's things. I don't want them in the house anymore," because he had stolen from her and deceived her and lied to her so much she couldn't stand by and watch her son kill himself anymore. So she's like, just take his things. Just get them out of the house. Yeah. And I saved them. And I started going through. And then I started to realize that mixed in with these belongings and skate trophies and things, there were like old cell phone bills. And there were old like welfare and food stamp paperwork and stuff. And they had addresses. And I would say, oh, my God, these have addresses and dates. And there was one phone bill that I found that had an address on it where he lived at a laundromat. And he, through that one fucking bill, through that one cell phone bill, I was able to reconstruct his entire life. I was like, oh, my God.
Wow.
We know you were here in 2002. So, and then we knew you were like, it was fucking crazy. But anyway, in this book, I'm very proud of the fact that, all right, let me start off by saying that about a third of the book has to do with his experiences on Viva la Bam. And so in order to create a mental picture for the readers, I wanted to include a lot of photos from that time because you can describe what Viva la Bam was on a page, but it requires something visual. You know, in this case, you know, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So in the book are over 50 pages of rare and unseen photographs from that era. Full color. And also his arrest records are in the book. So whenever you read about one of his arrests, after that chapter, the chapters are followed by his arrest records, his court documents. If someone filed a police report against him, I dug those up. Those are in there. Like the book, this is an addiction book unlike any other book that has ever been released, and I'm incredibly proud of it. So
if I know, I know it's
Streets
gonna
of Baltimore
sound.
coming out soon.
I know it's gonna sound weird. But you talk to him quite a bit. If you would be able to let him know that we would also want to interview him, or even you two together. There's just questions that I have for a former addict from a former addict, that I think only he would get or understand. And I know, like we all known addicts, you know what I mean? But there's just like certain feelings, like, getting clean. Everyone always worried about the sickness, and really, like, it's just like the flu. You get cramps, you get hot sweats, and everyone's had the flu, no big deal. So why are so many people afraid of getting clean? And to this day, I couldn't tell you. I'm just glad that I was able to do it when I did.
Well, a lot of it is because you have to, number one, repair the damage that you caused in your life.
Yeah.
While you were using, and it seems unachievable, and it seems unfathomable, and it's this huge weight on your shoulders. And also, when you're used to regulating your emotions with a fix, and that's gone. So you don't know how to think or feel about life and about yourself. So I think that has a lot to do with it. People just get so fucking overwhelmed, and they tell themselves, I'm just going to get high one time to forget about it, and then boom, the relapse happens. Then you could be doing drugs for another 5 years.
Yeah.
While you're not using, your addiction is in the gym doing push-ups and getting stronger, and you're only one bad decision away from using again.
Yep. Oh yeah.
According to IMDb, it says, "Where is my needle?" The Brandon Novak story is filming. Is this the same as that new book that's coming out, or is it?
No. That's the Where's My Needle is the Brandon Novak documentary that I spoke of earlier.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if it's going to be called Where Is My Needle when it's released.
It's a working title. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, yeah, like I said, if you're just, bring it up to them. If you guys want to come back on when it's about to come out, obviously, I want to know.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, definitely want to know when it's coming out. I'll pre-order it. Like, if there's pre-order information right now, you send it to me. I will definitely get a copy. I've been waiting for years to have a follow-up on Dreamseller. And if anyone out there has not read Dreamseller, if you're going through something right now, or you've been through something in the past, this book does hit hard. So just like be prepared, because Joe, like, you literally did the best job I think anyone could have done with that material.
Well, he was furious with me when that book came out. Because it did not have a happy ending. So let me clarify. There's two versions of there's three versions of the book. The first is the hardcover. The second is the paperback with a skateboarder on there. You can't even see Novak's face. It was not a good cover, and I never liked it, but our publisher wanted to put that on there. The third edition is the one to get. So that's the one with Novak on a chair on the cover, and that's because it has a new ending. It finally had a happy ending. So we released that in 2015. And after all those years, we were able to, because he had finally recovered, the book had a happy ending. But when the first edition came out, Novak wanted to be the poster boy of sobriety. Oh, and it was a lie. And I'm not going to lie, because that's not what addiction is. Addiction isn't always a fucking success story. Sometimes it's a fucking sad ending. And I was like, dude, I'm not gonna have an ending where he's gonna say, and I got sober, and if I can do it, you can do it too. Fuck that. He was still an addict. So I released the book, and it came out, and he called me about a week later, furious, screaming, "Why the fuck does my book end up with me being a junkie?"
Well,
and I was and I was like, the fact that it's out on bookshelves and you're just finding that out, that is a big sign, isn't it? That's a symptom to your fucking sickness. Like, you don't even know what your own book says, and that's the truth. And I refused to lie about it. And man, he didn't talk to me for a while after that. He was fucking pissed. But we're good friends now.
Awesome. I mean, like, I like that there's a happy ending now, but I don't think that book would have hit the same especially with what happened afterwards. I did mention to you before, we had a conversation a few years ago. I ran into Bam and Brandon and some of the crew in Ocean City, and Brandon ended up getting arrested for causing a ruckus in the bottom of a hotel. They had a restaurant like where they did breakfast.
Were you there for that?
Yeah. I actually left because he started shaking tables, and I was like, "Yeah, so like the people are looking, and someone's gonna call the cops, and I don't want to be here for that." So I was like, "Hey guys, gotta go. I gotta get like 2 hours of sleep before work."
I actually want to, not now, of course, but at a later time, I want to interview you about that because I'm writing about that in the next book after this, because I'm working on, it's crazy, I'm working on so many fucking projects at once. So I'm actually working on another 2 books in the Dreamseller series. Jesus. And one of them, I'm doing a lot of interviews with people who were around Novak at the time because he doesn't remember shit. And a lot of these interviews are fucking great, man. I'm running into people who are like, yeah, dude, I took him to score drugs one time. And I was like, why did you do that? He's like, I didn't know. He tricked me. I was like, oh my God, I got to fucking interview you. Like, you unknowingly took him to a drug deal. I was like, this is great. So, yeah, at a later time, I got to do an interview with you.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't want to put anything on the record here for sure. But that was like kind of my role that evening while we were out at the bar because I was a local. And looking back at it, like, I think I was more or less like, oh my God, these are like my childhood heroes. Cause I wasn't using at that time. I was clean. And I still said, oh yeah, whatever you guys want. You know what I mean? Cause I could still talk to whoever, you know what I mean? And like looking back at it, things did not play out the way I saw it in my head when it happened. So yeah, whenever you want to do that, just, give me a buzz and we'll take
that'd be
care
great.
of that. So Wolfman said earlier to me, one of his all-time favorite bands. I actually want him to ask the question. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was just going to save it for afterwards, but yeah, because I didn't know how much time we had. But what was it like filming with Guar? Because, I mean, they're one of my all-time favorite bands. I've seen them over 25 times. I was just curious.
They were never out of character.
That's what I would expect. Yeah.
No, even when the cameras were off, they showed up as Guar, and they left the set as Guar.
Yeah, well, that's what I expect. That's amazing.
That's awesome.
And even when I wanted to get a photo with them in uniform, and they all fucking strangled me. They all grabbed me and fucking started kicking my ass. I was like, this is great. Get my ass kicked by Guar.
Oh, man.
Yeah, they were just a lot of fun. I met the first guy I met in Guar was years ago. I met Techno Destructo after he left the band, and I worked with him doing some wrestling. He was wrestling wearing the Techno Destructo outfit.
Really?
It was pretty fucking cool.
Shit.
Well, I guess they had the intergalactic wrestling gimmick at that time. That's probably like part of it.
Oh yeah, maybe.
During the shows. Yeah, they had during the shows. Yeah.
So it's kind of hard because I usually want to wrap these up by like, what are you working on or what do you want to promote? But like, dude, you're like James Brown, man. You are the hardest working man in showbiz right now. You have the book that it's hitting press on Monday, but that's like one of like 20 things. So like, what would you want to tell people to keep an eye out for in the near future of what's, happening?
The Streets of Baltimore is going to be the next thing.
Okay.
That's going to be out. So right now it's April
16th.
Yeah, it's mid-April right now. So that should be available within a month, I guess. And so there's that. And thank you. And anyone who hasn't read the Brandon Novak Chronicles, I've always wanted to do a graphic novel, and I would like to do more graphic novels. And what's cool about this is it tells some of the comedic and tragic tales about Novak's addiction. So there's one comic there's two of them that are very tragic and sad stories. Then there's a comedy story called The Cat Who Loved to Shit in Tony Hawk's Bathtub. And it's about, when he was a kid, he went and visited Tony Hawk, and the cat would shit in the tub, and it became a big thing I won't spoil it for you. But what's cool about this graphic novel is the featured story is an untold 40-page story, and these are all true stories, but it's a true story about when Brandon Novak walked the carpet of the VMAs clad only in a computer keyboard duct taped to his waist. And it's just a madcap, action-packed story with Novak and the CKY crew. You got Phil, April, Rab, Don Vito, everyone. DiCamillo wouldn't get on the airplane, so he wasn't there, so he's not in the story.
Of course.
It's funny. A lot of people are like, how come Dico's not in it? How come Dico's not in it? It's like, because he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Like,
Seriously.
He just I don't know what to fucking tell you people. So then, it's going to take me about 4 months to produce the Brandon Novak documentary. Then later on in the year, I'm going to be coming out with CKY HD on Blu-ray, and we'll see what the fuck else happens. It's just I like to submerge myself in my work and interesting projects, and I really love writing. I would love to sit and pump out the next 2 Novak books, actually. But it's crazy how there's not enough time to live life and do everything you want to do. As you get older, you begin to look at your days, and it's like, wow, my days are numbered, and I need to be very selective about what I work on and very efficient, and it's bittersweet. As you get older, you begin to once you have a body of works, it's almost sad, because you realize that the works you put out are finite. There's only a certain amount of fucking music videos you're going to make. There's only a certain amount of movies you're going to make. There's only a certain amount of words you're going to be able to write. So there's kind of a sadness involved with creation.
Yeah. Luckily, I think, like, with today's technology, like, everything that everyone's done since, like, 15 years ago, can pretty much be found on the internet. So at least it'll live on. But I always tell people, to this day, yeah, you can listen to music online, but it's not the same as having a tape or a vinyl or a CD. You could watch a movie stream online, but having a VHS or DVD, reading a book, you actually holding a book and reading it, all of that is 10 times better than just being able to have the product that you want in front of you immediately. You know what I mean? And that's why I urge people, to support these local underground or independent artists, because they're doing it on their own. They don't have the backing of these major companies and labels who pretty much treat you like a number, and they're just looking at the bottom end. You've been on both sides of the fence, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks when Hollywood and New York get involved with your projects in a lot of ways. Like our last music video we did for CKY was A1 Roller Rager, and they put out, the label wanted everyone to go to their website to see it. And it's like, dude, I hate to tell you this, but no one will go to your website to see this video. People watch videos on YouTube. People don't want to log into a website and give their email address and shit like that. It's just, they're like, yeah, but this is an attraction. I'm like, I know you want that to be true, but that's not the way it's going to happen. No one will see the music video. And it sucks. They did the worst job of releasing that video. They spent $30,000 on it, and it was very fucking disappointing. Or like I was speaking earlier about Dreamseller, we had a great publisher. Kensington Press was so gracious. They gave us an advance to write the book, and which gave me time to sit and craft the writing, and then they changed the cover so that the second edition cover is horrible. It's like so anytime you get Hollywood involved, man, although I have to say, when we did Viva la Bam, we were blessed with someone who actually receives very little credit for their work, who worked for MTV. Her name is Lauren Dulgin, and man, she'd been on board for Jackass and for Viva la Bam, and she got it. Oh my God, her feedback was fucking golden. So, every now and then there's a diamond in the Hollywood rough.
That's all. It gives
Big
me
thank you out to Lauren.
yeah,
but
gives me faith
yeah.
in the industry.
But it does suck doing what I do because I do everything. Basically, I do everything for free. So it's like, writing this new book, The Streets of Baltimore, was a hardship because I didn't get paid for 8 months. And it's like, can you imagine not knowing where your fucking bills, how your bills are going to get paid for 8 months and trying to fucking scrape by doing it, So a lot of these projects, since they're projects of passion and because I want to control them, I don't have, any kind of financial backing. And, and sometimes it's disheartening, but it's kind of funny when you read some of the fans with their blogs saying, oh, Frantz is just doing this for a cash grab. He's just stuffing his pockets full of money. It's like, I wish, oh my God, I wish that was true. I wish I was this heartless bastard that was just stuffing money into my pockets that I didn't deserve. Jesus Christ. But it's kind of funny. So yeah, long answer to your short question. That's what I want to plug.
Good. Well, when we post this, you can message me some links where people can find Dreamseller and be able to get in contact with you or whatever. I'll post that with the post. That way, sometimes people, they like clickable stuff. It's kind of hard to do the research. I mean, it's not, but they seem to not do it. So the best place to get our books, our graphic novels and our books is Amazon. And the Brandon Novak Chronicles comes autographed, hand signed by me, Novak, and by Emmanuel Koch, the artist. Oh, no shit.
If you want to go to, and that's a great place to get Dreamseller. And if you want limited edition CKY merch, it's all fucking autographed and hand signed and all that stuff. You can go to brandonnovak.com and go to the store. You can get our graphic novel book and all kinds of limited edition CKY stuff there as well.
Let us know when the CKY pre-orders come up.
The HD,
and we'll plug it. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
We'll make sure we'll plug it for you. Throw it out there where you can pre-order them at.
So we definitely want to get you and Brandon on at some point. Maybe when the book's about to drop, we'll get into a conversation, and then obviously we're gonna have you on when CKY HD comes out. So definitely gonna have you coming back, Joe.
Awesome.
Thank you for taking the time out to talk to us. You're an awesome person, and I mean, not as a professional, as a fanboy, I appreciate just about 99% of everything you've done. That 1% is probably stuff I don't know about, but if I did, I'd probably appreciate it too. So,
well, thank you ever so kindly.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think you're very talented. I don't think someone else could have captured a lot of the stuff you have the way you did.
Yeah.
It's just something you meshed with the guys, and it just the way it came out. You did a fantastic job. I'm just very, very appreciative of your work.
Well, it was a very special time in my life, and I'm glad that it brings you continued happiness. That makes me happy. So thank you.
Awesome, everybody. Joe Frantz, check him out. If you haven't seen CKY, get out from that rock you're living under. Check out Dreamseller and pay attention because a lot of new material is going to be dropping here shortly, and you'll hear it as soon as we know. You'll hear it from us, and we'll have him back on. Joe, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, Joe.
Bye-bye.
Take care.